I'm watching on my screen, Armani, so I should be able to tell whenever we're clear.
All right.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into NASCAR by the Numbers. Here we are. It's race day at the Roval. Special guest this week, Kobe Lambeth, who is a huge, not just NASCAR fan, but just motorsports fan in general. This guy, there's times where I'm waking up in the morning and this guy's been tweeting about races since 3 hours ago. And I'm thinking, when does this dude ever sleep? But he loves racing, loves the passion. Obviously, we have the motor minister in Armani over here, crazy himself over there in the car. But first, let's kick it off with Kobe. Kobe, what is your background in motorsports? How did you get involved, and what makes you love just all forms of racing so much?
Oh, this is a crazy story. I felt like I've told the story a million times already, but started in February 2007. It was really crazy because typically at that time I was a college basketball fan and NFL fan, but I also like watching cartoons on the weekends. And it was a cold day in February. I didn't really know what I wanted to watch that day, so I just grabbed my remote, just flipping around the channels, and all of a sudden there's this car race. And I grew up love watching, love playing with my Hot Wheels, and then I said, this looks interesting, so I'm just gonna sit down and watch. And I had no idea what NASCAR was. I didn't know what a Daytona 500 was. I didn't even know what the name of the track was. But I sat down and watched the Daytona 500 2007 flag to flag, and it was that finish, between Kevin Harvick and Mark Martin. That was really the finish that turned me into a young NASCAR fan. After that, I said I have to keep watching NASCAR, and after that, I watched NASCAR every single week and fell in love with it more and more. And it's really crazy during that time because we didn't have cable, and I'd always hate the summer times because when NASCAR went on TNT and ESPN, I didn't get to watch the races, so I did it old school. Whenever those races come around, I'd listen to it on the radio, and then those final 10 races of the playoffs. Well, at the time it was called the Chase. I was really happy because the races were on ABC those final 10 weeks. So I got to see the first part of the season, the Daytona 500, all the way up to the Coca-Cola 600, and then the summertime had to listen to all the races on the radio, and then those final 10 weeks got to see it live, which was really cool. And then eventually got cable, and then I got to see the TNT and the ESPN races I missed. So I got really lucky, and then over the years, just a real big fan of NASCAR and all of that. And started watching other series like IndyCar, Formula One, sports car racing. Really got into that, and that's really how I started watching other forms of racing. Because actually, when I was younger, started getting a little burnout on watching just NASCAR only, and being able to watch other series. It really makes me appreciate NASCAR a lot more, and along with other series around the world. So I'm just a motorsports fanatic. Love watching motorsports here in America, Europe, and Australia as well as supercars. Also covered a few races that go on in Asia. And if you're wondering how I got into motorsports journalism, actually at first I wanted to be a mechanical engineer, but I had to be honest with myself before going to college. Say I'm not smart when it comes to math and science. So I'm like, maybe this is not the best path for me. And people kept telling me that they said, Kobe, you really need to stick with this. They say you don't want to give up. And I'm like, I'm not trying to burn myself out and get all frustrated because I don't understand this stuff. And when I was in high school, joined the robotics team, try to get some experience in that area. And anybody who was a part of that team with me will tell you that it wasn't for him because they gave me a task to do, and I did a terrible job with that. There always had to be somebody to help me out. And then when they were explaining things to me in what I consider Greek, I kept saying, they said, you understand? I said, yeah. But in reality, I didn't. I had no clue what they were talking about. And then talking with some of my teachers, I always said I was a really good writer. And I'm like, hey, if I'm a good writer and I like motorsports, maybe I should become a motorsports journalist. And started up. And for people who have followed me on Twitter since the early days, I believe it's like 2014, 2015, 2016, they know I started up my own little media outlet called Daily NASCAR Scoop and More. Yeah, wrote a few articles there. reacted to several news around the motorsports world. Was lucky to score a few interviews. I believe some of my first interviews were Ryan Ellis, who does social media at Go Fast Racing, and Hannah Newhouse, who's with MRN now. And also Tristan Nunez, who's a Mazda DPI driver right now. Yeah, really cool to get some of those interviews. And over time, I ended up stopped doing daily NASCAR scoop and more. Yeah, I'd say my Twitter page was like a parody page, NASCAR at NASCAR Daily. And then people were telling me, if you want to get more serious, you need to make your account more professional. And then I changed it to at Kobe Lambeth on Twitter. And after that, I got an opportunity with a motorsports media outlet. And long story short, I didn't last no more than 5 days there. Yeah, because it just wasn't the right opportunity at all. And eventually got this internship at Rockingham now in Rockingham County, North Carolina, Reidsville. Covered high school football in fall 2017. It was really cool working alongside Joe Dexter and Jim Sands, two great local community journalists. And that opportunity led to me going to UNC Charlotte to major in communications with the concentration in mass media, minor in journalism. And then I started working with the school newspaper, Niner Times there. And unfortunately, I didn't finish my freshman year with the Niner Times because another opportunity came up with Rob Tianson's The Podium Finish. Yeah, I finally had an opportunity to work for a legitimate NASCAR media outlet, and decided to leave my position with the school paper before the end of my freshman year. Go with The Podium Finish. Yeah, things been going really well with The Podium Finish. Still there today. And actually, with this pandemic coming around, I was gonna have a great opportunity to have an internship in NASCAR, but unfortunately, I got notified just a little way into the pandemic that had been canceled because of obvious safety concerns. Yeah, and that was a big blow to me because I felt like getting that internship was going to be my one big break to potentially work in NASCAR someday. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I was really depressed about that. But then a guy named Joe Samniego, who's currently the owner of Grid Network, he reached out to me like towards the end of the spring semester, and he's like, hey, you want to come on my show? And then at first I'm like, no, thank you, I got a lot on my plate. And then a little while later, he reached back out to me, I believe in May, and he said, would you like to still come on my show? And at that time, things were starting to calm down school wise, and I'm like, you know what, why not? I've been doing the Motorsports Mamba Hour for the past several months ago, where just a Q&A, speak with race fans for an hour. So I said I had some experience on camera, might as well just do this with Joe. And on May 17th, we did our first show with NASCAR's return to Real Heroes 400 at Darlington. And I was actually surprised, really enjoyed it. And then Joe asked me if I wanted to come back again. And I said, sure. And I said, sure, man. And then over time, we just kept doing shows. Chemistry got better. And then he asked if I wanted to stay on full time with Great Network. And I accepted. So right now, I'm a motorsports journalist with The Podium Finish. And now Grid Network. Yeah, and the opportunity with Grid Network is really unique because the thing that me and Joe building right now, we're self-employed, which is really crazy. I never expected that we'd be working together owning a newer motorsports media outlet. And yeah, and we're all over social media. We have Twitter /Periscope, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch, Discord, and of course YouTube. I feel like I'm leaving out something there. And so far on our YouTube, we're at 96 subscribers, getting close to that milestone 100. Really crazy. Never expected that we grow so fast. And we also have up a Patreon, and we have one Patreon supporter. So shout out to Colin. Really appreciate Colin for supporting us. And so far we don't know how far we're gonna take Grid Network, but the long term goal is to make it into a well respected media outlet producing video content. Yes, yeah, and also shout out Joe Samniego for everything he's done for me. It's been really cool to come together and build this media outlet together because long term we hope that we're gonna produce some great content out there for industry people and fans alike. So we can earn those media credentials so we can actually go to the track and give them better content. So basically, that's my story.
There you go. I mean, definitely a lot of passion there with racing. Obviously, I hate to hear what happened with the internship. I can imagine the frustration there. And obviously Grid Network, something that I think me and Armani have done. I know we've interacted with those guys a couple of times. Pretty cool. And obviously we hope y'all have success. Hopefully we'll be having success right here along with you, World Racing Media. But we wanted to get into, obviously, today is a big day. We're all on the forefront of potentially seeing the first Cup Series rain race since, I believe, the 1950s. I thought it had never happened, but found out yesterday there was a race in the 1950s. Yesterday was madness in the Xfinity Series race. It rained. At one point, you always have those moments where you see the craziest crashes in this series history or this series history, and it's just cars everywhere. Well, NASCAR had that happen for about a lap yesterday, where there were just cars everywhere. I think Armany said he was able to go back and watch the highlights of that. So we'll start with Armany here. What is your reaction from yesterday? Then we'll go back to Kobe real quick. What is your reaction to that race? And do you think we get something like that similar today?
My reaction to that race was just, what the hell did I just watch? Like you said it perfectly. There's one lap where it was literally just car there, car sliding there, car sliding there. You might have seen a car airborne by how much craziness there was. I remember it was the 61, I believe the 44 car, and there was a third car just like this little group together on the wall. You had cars slipping and sliding everywhere. Obviously, Chase Briscoe, he lost the race because in overtime when he spun out. But that race was just pure and utter madness. My favorite part of the race was when Brandon Brown got the flat tire, and then he just hit a still of water, and water just splashed everywhere. That was weird. I think that described the race pretty perfectly. It's like, okay, it's normal. And then when the rain hits, just
one of the comments of the day in the booth was from Steve Letarte. They showed the angle of when that lap happened that we're talking about, with like when everybody and their mother wrecked, and there were 3 or 4 cars in the tire wall. Steve Letarte goes, "There's a car there that you can't see right now." And then you pan the camera, and the 61 of Austin Hill is literally parked under the tires. And that was just it was wild. And I think it was, my guy Noah Gregson spun out 3 times. One time he got dumped. Came back 3 times. I mean, it was just a fun as hell race. I mean, you look, last restart, Chase Briscoe, one of the best guys we've seen do this year, just spins out going for it, just completely just loses it off the corner. It's done. And I'm intrigued to see what the Cup guys. What did you think, Kobe? I know you're a guy that has probably watched some more races in the rain than NASCAR fans are accustomed to. This is all something we see once every 2 or 3 years. Obviously, now for the Cup Series, once in 70 years. So you're a guy that has more experience with rain racing, I would imagine, in races that you've watched. What did you think? Did it seem like an embarrassment, or was it just fun entertainment?
Hey, when they say sports and entertainment, that's exactly what it was. Yeah, it was certainly really crazy watching that race. It was like the Mid Ohio race in the rain. I think this Xfinity race is gonna be right up there in terms of how we remember it. And moving forward from this race, I think there might be some changes at Charlotte Motor Speedway for the Roval in the future, because if we see some more rain in future years, I know a lot of people talking about the drainage system not being that great. And I feel like the Charlotte Motor Speedway, if they want to be able to host a better race in the rain, so so it's not as crazy like it is. I mean, even if they had a great drainage system, still might be crazy, but it wouldn't be anything like what we saw with the Xfinity race. So moving forward from this, I think that Charlotte Motor Speedway will seriously consider installing lights in the infield, so they can run at night. I understand they're going to be installing temporary lights in case the Cup race runs late at night. Yeah, so that's another thing. Improve the drainage system so the water has somewhere to go, so there's not a lot of standing water off the track. And also, I think Goodyear might want to look into developing a much better rain tire, because there's going to be six points paying road course races on the schedule next year, and that's going to be doing a lot more road racing. And since we're going to be going to more road courses, I think it's in Goodyear's best interest to further develop their rain tires so they can have a better tire for wet weather racing. You're right. Yeah, I've covered a lot more races in the rain, and I understand for a lot of NASCAR fans, it's really rare. But watching all these, like open wheel racing and sports car racing, it's just, yeah, I know those cars are better better suited for wet weather conditions. And actually, earlier this year when IMSA raced at Road America, they had to stop the race because it was raining like so hard you couldn't even see. And we had GT cars and prototypes sliding off the track. So even for cars that are designed to race in the rain, like IMSA cars, yeah, at some point, when it's raining too hard in hell, and it's just way too much for them. So even racing in the rain was too much for sports car series, for those cars who are more capable of racing in the rain than the stock cars.
Yeah, and it's something that people forget just how heavy these stock cars are. Then today we're going to walk into a situation where I keep forgetting that a couple of the younger guys, like I say, that Ryan Blaney, may have ran some of those Xfinity races, which ran in a couple of years ago. But I imagine there's a handful of guys that are in this race today that have never ran in rain once in their entire career. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm overstating that, but I don't know if a guy like Clint Boyer, who grew up dirt racing and coming through those ranks, and I don't think, it's been a while since he ran in the Xfinity Series. I don't know if he's ever ran a race in the rain. Or a guy like Jimmy Johnson. I don't know if he's ever ran a race in the rain.
No, Jimmy's never run in the rain before, which is really crazy considering everything he's accomplished.
Right. Never ran in the rain before. Maybe you have a couple of guys that have ran the Rolex over the years or experienced some sort of weather, but you and we're going to get in the uniqueness of the Roval a little bit later in the show, but that the Roval is so unique with how tight it is and the oval elements of it and everything. So I want us to, this next question, and again we'll go back to Armani, is let's go into the mindset that it is going to rain today. Let's go into the mindset that the Cup guys are going to face the same conditions the Xfinity guys did, because it's supposed to be very similar. The radar kind of shows different things, but the projected forecast still shows rain all day long. You ask on Twitter, it's supposed to rain all day long. Everyone seems to be dead set that they're going to run in the same weather that yesterday it was. So we'll start with Armani. What do you expect? Let's go into it. It's pouring rain. We're racing in the rain. There's going to be a little bit of standing water. We're going to be on rain tires all day. What do you expect from this race as a race fan going in?
We could probably expect what we saw from the Daytona road course earlier this year. With the Xfinity Series, it was way more chaotic, way more hectic. I believe, like when the Mike Harmon cars just fully sent it into turn one. So I think the Cup guys, because they're more professional, they've done this obviously more. They're going to take a different approach. So you might see a lot more of a tamer race than the Xfinity Series, just because these drivers are more professional. They're going to try to handle it in a different situation. However, because it's a cutoff race also, you might also see some drivers like Kyle Busch or Austin Dillon or the two SHR cars below the color. They might try to take advantage and try to get a little bit desperate. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe even see some of those playoff drivers, make some mistakes. Let's say, for example, Kyle Busch is running second. He's trying to go for the lead. Maybe he spins out in the rain and then he falls back to like 15th. So we could see some tameness, but we also might see some instances of like over-aggression that could cost some playoff drivers.
I think it's a very good point to think about. Here's the one thing I will say. It doesn't feel like it. We've only had one road course race this year, unless my mind is just forgetting something. Watkins Glen we couldn't run. Sonoma we couldn't run. All we had was Daytona, which I do think was calmer than a lot of people expected. But Daytona's also a much more sweeping road course. Not as many hard braking zones, and obviously we had clear weather. My expectation from the day is kind of like, I think and I catch a lot of flack from this, and a lot of people, you saw guys like Jeff Gluck and Bob Pockris who are all about, we probably shouldn't be racing in this. It's not necessarily fair, which I get the point of. Realistically, no, it's not really fair that it could rain on a cutoff race and could determine someone's season. But at the same time, all these drivers are facing the same conditions. And if you're truly, quote unquote, the best in the world, you should be able to adapt to any situation. But I think calamity is what a lot of times NASCAR lacks. And calamity is what we're going to get today if it is a rain race. The Roval's been pretty wild the first couple of years anyways. Now look at it this way, and I believe this is the third year of the Roval. It's already going to probably be crazy because it's a cutoff race. You're going to have to make moves. Even though really the cut line is not very tight this year, pretty much, you're going to have a guy like Bowman or Logano have a bad first stage or two to really even make this a close battle of just positions at the end of this thing. But at the same time, I mean, that's going to add pressure. And if rain is going to add more of that pressure, Alex Bowman is not the greatest road course driver. Now put Alex Bowman in the rain. What does that do? Can a guy like Logano or Kyle Busch make up for those things? And those are really the three you're looking at. Austin Dillon, I guess you could throw in there. So I think we could get Calamity, which could make this one of the most memorable races we have seen in recent history. That's what I'm hoping for, at least. I mean, you're going to remember tomorrow, or you're going to remember yesterday for a while because it was such a crazy race. And I'm hoping that's what today. Kobe, what say you? What are your expectations for this from a guy? Again, you've said you've covered races in the rain. You kind of know what rain racing looks like. Do you expect these guys to surprise us and put on a clean show, or do you think we could have comedy hour for the next 2 to 3 hours?
Yeah, it is really funny, since a lot of these drivers don't have a lot of experience racing in the rain. Typically, when we see stock car racing on the rain, it's usually very chaotic and crazy. So I think at some point during the race, especially if the rain picks back up, because right now getting some reports from the Charlotte area that's currently not raining at the track. So yeah, so if it's not going to rain for like a several next little while or so, track's going to start drying up a little bit. And when on those drier conditions with those rain tires, if there is in dry surface, it's gonna eat those rain tires apart, and the Cup teams are gonna get 4 sets of rain tires today. So if we're gonna have rain later on, gonna make sure that they're prioritizing and coming up with the right strategy so they can use those tires efficiently. And it's really harder, in the rain tires in those mixed conditions when the track is starting to dry, because you have to like find different lines where there's still puddles to get, to cool off the rain tires, because the worst thing that you can possibly do is put those treaded rain tires on a dry surface. But overall, I agree with what Armani was saying. I think at the beginning of the race, especially if it's like say light rain or tracks starting to dry, whatever. I think the driver, it'd be like the Daytona road course where the drivers are going to take it easy at first, but if we get a full-on monsoon and downpour like yesterday, I think it's gonna be just as crazy as the Xfinity race. You're gonna see a lot of spins, a lot of car, a lot of cars sliding off course, and it's just gonna be pure chaos. And we thought Talladega was the wild card. If we get a crazy downpour, I think we might end up seeing a surprise winner.
You never know. I think that's there's going to be guys that are excelling. We're actually going to make winner picks here in just a second. A couple of updates. We've had a couple updates. We had a comment on the video. So Bob Pockers tweeted that the weather should clear about 2:45 to 3, but there are other cells that are looking that could develop. So again, it's so weird because the radar shows a big patch that has already passed. And like I said, where I live, I mean, obviously I'm still 100 miles from the racetrack, but a lot of times the weather is very similar through Atlanta, Greenville, Spartanburg, up into Charlotte. It has not rained here all morning. It looks like it could pour at any moment, and we probably will get rain at some point today. But I don't know if it's going to be in the time window to affect the race. But again, other sales, and it is 100 miles away. Weather does change. Also, a note that Denny Hamlin said is hydroplaning could be even more serious today because the Cup cars are lower to the ground than the Xfinity cars. So that is something we're going to watch out for. So with all this being said, it's time to make our money. Me and Armani called it last week. We called Dennis the Menace Hamlin winning at Talladega. So, today is very unique. We'll go Armani, we'll go Kobe, then we'll head back to me. I'll be honest, I'm going to be making this on the spot. One of you guys may even convince who I'm taking. But right now, gut feeling, again, we kind of have to assume there's going to be some sort of weather in this race. Who is going to fare well in this weather? Who is going to win the race today at the Charlotte Roval?
I'm going to go with the same road course ace that I keep picking. And every time I pick him, Chase Elliott wins. I'm going to go with Mark Truex Jr. I think he's going to, especially if there's weather, I think he'll have a little bit more of an edge over Chase just because he's been in the sport longer. He has more experience, a little more mature as a driver. So he's going to use that to his advantage if there's weather as opposed to Chase. So I'm going to go with the 19 car to get what would only be a second win of the season.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm going with the driver who I think is the best road course racing driver right now in NASCAR, and that's the driver of the number 9 is Chase Elliott.
All right, my pick. And this is funny. I started writing his name before Armani said his name because I was thinking. I think you wrote it down beautifully. I'm going to pick Truex because I think Chase is still young, still that aggressive. Martin is going to say, I think Martin's going to approach it differently. And Martin's going to look at it as, I've got to be patient. If I can be patient, ride out the weather, ride out the madness, I can be there. Obviously, Chase is going to be a threat. Still just remembering the masterful drive he had there last year after he just controller unplugged, went straight into turn one, cleanly picks his way through the entire field, by far had the best car, was the best driver by a long shot, and goes out and dominantly I think he still ends up winning that race by 5 or 6 seconds. I mean, it was still ridiculous how he won that race. But I do think that Truex is going to be a little bit more tame, and I think Truex is a tame driver. I've often said a lot of times that's what's held him back sometimes. That could be what holds him patient. Now, I want to do this quick, so we'll sweep through this. I didn't think about doing this, but who is one wild card do you think we should watch out for that maybe is an underdog that could sneak up there? Kobe was talking about earlier. This could end up being the wild card. We'll start with Armani.
Wild card driver. Damn, who could be a wild card? Skip me for now. I'm going to try to think. I actually have to think.
Okay, I'm actually gonna give 2 wild card drivers. Number one, I know before we got on air talking about this driver, Michael McDowell. I think, Michael McDowell, a great road course racer, has experience in open wheel and sports cars, Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series back in the day. Yeah. So Michael McDowell, first part of his racing career, grew up racing road courses and then transitioned to stock cars and ovals. I think if it rains, that Michael McDowell might be able to show his awesome road course racing skills in the rain. And another driver I think who could really surprise some people is Daniel Suarez. You understand. Yesterday when I was on our Grid Live pre-race show, we were talking about how rain is the great equalizer in racing. I know a lot of people say that the draft at Daytona and Talladega is the great equalizer, but I truly believe that the real greatest equalizer is the rain, because in the rain you can see drivers who don't necessarily have the best equipment go towards the front. Heck, you even saw that yesterday in the NASCAR Xfinity Series race. At one point, Greg Galdon was running in the top 5 on a Mike Harmon racing car, and that's something that you would not see in dry conditions. Also, Alex Labay was up there in the top 3 at one point. Josh Williams running in the top 10. Also, road course racer Jake Buford was in the top 10 as well with SS Greenlight Racing, and that's usually something you would not see on a road course in perfect conditions. But when it rains, you can also see drivers who will typically finish mid pack or towards the back have a chance to rise to the front. We mentioned that crazy Xfinity race at Mid Ohio several years ago. Alon Day, who currently races in the NASCAR Euro Series, he was running at the front in what they call the zombie Dodge that Carl Long owned. That was something that nobody would have expected. And if it hadn't rained that day, crazy day at Mid Ohio, we wouldn't have seen a long day up there. And I think that Daniel Suarez, he's mostly been running like 25th, 30th for a lot of years, and he's had some better finishes above that. And I think if it rains that, and considering Daniel Suarez has a really good average finish on road courses, I think get that downpour, Daniel Suarez might be able to have his best finish of the season.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to note. And then another guy, and I'm one that brought up Michael McDowell. I think he is one to watch. He probably my first guy to watch. But talk about guys that are a little bit calm, a little bit more patient. Matt DiBenedetto is a fairly solid road racer, and I feel like he can maybe be a guy that could try to ease his way through, kind of like Martin Truex Jr. Use that patience, use that lack of aggression that I often think he may have, and use that to his advantage. So I would say Matt DiBenedetto, also Michael McDowell. Like I said, Armani, did you finally think of one? Kevin Conway's not there, so you can't pick him.
Finally got one. We talked about it before. Experience, patience. I'm going to go with the most experienced guy in the field, Matt Kenseth.
Ooh, I don't know about all that, but, hey, I'm not sure what to expect. So, hey, maybe Matt Kenseth shocks the world. So going forward, kind of our next topic, this is kind of a single question, and then we'll move on to our top 5 drivers. We'll make this pretty quick. The Roval was something, I'm not going to lie, when it was first announced, I was sort of against it because I really wanted us to go to a real road course, which now they've kind of made up. NASCAR's made up for those in the new schedule. We're going to some real internationally known, respected road courses, real road courses that are used to holding high-class events. And the Roval has really grown on me. I went to the first Roval. It was badass. They wrecked all in front of me. It was all a wild situation, wild moment. The finish with Truex and Jimmy Johnson that, Jimmy Johnson just unplugged for a minute. It was all fun, and I really enjoyed it. And there's really been a uniqueness to the Roval. And I'll hit on mine, what I think makes it unique here at the end. But we'll start with Armani. What do you think separates the Roval and truly makes it a unique stop, not just on the NASCAR schedule, but just unique in general? I mean, we're already seeing, we're getting more road racing there from other series and sports cars. There's been flirting with maybe an IndyCar race in the future. You never know. What do you think makes the Roval unique in just racing in general?
One thing I liked about the Roval is I felt like it rejuvenated the road course talk in NASCAR. Because even then, before they announced the Roval and everything, we hear about short tracks every year, but not too many road courses. We had the Sonoma, we had the Glen. Everyone was really content with it. Then you add the Roval. Number one, it adds that unpredictability that you don't even really get from Watkins Glen, or you don't get from Sonoma, just because it's so unique. You have the oval portions, and then you go into the infield, and then drivers say that's like a street course. So because of how tight it is, the elevation changes, which you don't even really get it with the Daytona road course. The elevation change, it seems like it's kind of the same, like in the infield. The Roval, it's different. You have elevation changes going up, going down that you you feel like you get in other Rovals. Another thing I like about the Roval is just how unique it is. I talked about it a while ago, where it's like I feel like Rovals could, in a way, like NASCAR could take advantage of them. It's like, they're not high class road courses in like Circuit of the Americas, Road America, which we're going to next year. However, I feel like because no one really talks about Rovals, I feel like NASCAR can, in a way, like take advantage of it in the sense of like make it its own bread and butter.
Yeah, they can really corner the market. Kobe, what you think as a guy that, again, watches a ton of international road racing? I'm sure the road will add something different than anything you've ever seen before. What would that be?
And I'm actually going to go back to something that one of the IMSA guys said. I believe it was Jack Hawthorne who races for Aim Bassett Sullivan in the IMSA GT Daytona class. I think he referred to the Charlotte Roval as a street course on steroids because of how close how close the walls are, especially down in the infield section. And I think that's a great analogy. When I got to cover the very first race at the Roval, I was lucky enough a few hours before the race to get a pace car ride around the track, and I was actually shocked and stunned to see the elevation changes in the infield. Like, it is like so insane, like something that I never really expected. And then you have a wall here and a wall here, and they're like no room for error. So the infield section, it truly feels like you're running out of street course, and then you get back on the bank, and oh my gosh, that bank is so steep, it's crazy. And then going through the back stretch chicane. I got to go through the chicane. The chicane from the first year, that was actually, I'm gonna call the chicane on steroids because it was really crazy. Because you just had to hook a hard left and then hook a hard right. You're going really fast, and then they changed it where you have to slow down a lot more because there was so many problems with that chicane. And I think the thing that really separates the Roval from all these other tracks is because Armand talked about the elevation changes, and because it's really different from the Daytona road course, like you mentioned, because there's not really elevation change there. It's basically all flat, and then you get up on those high banks of Daytona. Yeah, and with the Charlotte Roval, you have it's just a really crazy feeling because you have oval, and then it's not a traditional road course, but it's like road course. It's like a road course. That's Charlotte Motor Speedway. More like, instead of like your normal road course, it's kind of like a road course in a stadium like feel because you can see the entire track. And I think that the Roval is certainly one of the more popular races on the schedule in its young history.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. And for one, people forget this. Charlotte Motor Speedway sets up Christmas lights there every year. So I've got to be on the road before, not the actual layout. But it's pretty cool. I've been there for the Christmas lights and stuff, and you actually feel some of that elevation change. And there is definitely a hill, a very swing down the hill. And you hit on it there at the end. That's what I've always said about the Roval for the last couple of years is, when you look at – now obviously it's going to change, but traditionally we've had 3 road courses on the schedule in the last couple of years. Sonoma was kind of more of a drawn-out technical road course. Watkins Glen was more of your beating and banging and fast-paced road course racing. And then, to me, what makes the Roval different than anything else is it's stadium road racing, which you really don't get. It's pretty much like how motocross is, except we got full-size stock cars having a stadium road course race, which I've always thought that was pretty cool. That's what's made it really unique to me. When I went there, it instantly probably became my favorite race I've ever been to, because you can see all the action. We sit way up high, and you could see from where we sat, you could see everything. Everything happening right in front of you. When they come into their infield, when they come out of the infield, you can go. I mean, the chicane's far away, but you can see it. Obviously, you can see the finish setting up as they come into the last little chicane right there. It's just a really badass place to watch a race. Stadium road racing is so unique. It's not something that people have done really any of. And so I think we're going to see that continue to grow. I think we're going to see other series eventually use that. I don't think the Roval fits the likes of something like a Formula One. It's just not big enough, but I definitely think we could maybe see like an IndyCar race there. Obviously, we're starting to see some IMSA sports car stuff come in there, so it'll be intriguing to see what the future could hold for the Roval. So the last part of our discussion we wanted to get to, and I know we've got to roll out of here in about 10 or 15 minutes because Armany has to get prepared for work here at 1 o'clock. So, and we all have kickoff. So we'll hit on this pretty quick. And what I want to do is I think we kind of all know who the first top two road racers are. So when we go through the first time, give me your top two road racers. Obviously, I'll give you mine. Then we'll kind of talk about the final three, which may be some differences there. I'm not going to lie. I kind of had to just start picking names eventually because it was just the top two were kind of there. Then there's a bunch of guys that have been good at road courses at certain points in their career, but maybe not now, or maybe they were earlier, and it's just wild. So top five road course racers in the Cup Series right now. We'll start with Armany. Give me your top two.
Chase Elliott and Martin Truex Jr. I don't think anyone's going to argue with that. Chase Elliott, 3 wins in a row at road courses, dating back to Watkins Glen. 7 top 10s with 11 starts at road courses. Has 4 wins there, including his first win. Has about a 9.4 average finish there in road courses. And if you take out his Sonoma DNF, it drops all the way to a 6.9. And number 2, Martin Truex Jr., who always seems to be behind Chase Elliott. He has 4 straight top 10s at road courses and 9 since 2016. He's also got 4 wins, including 4 wins at road courses, including 3 since 2017, which includes Watkins Glen and back-to-back Sonoma in 2018 and 2019. And like I said, with Truex, it's always like he's one step down of Chase Elliott. Like if Chase Elliott is first, Truex is probably either second or third. So I don't think anyone's really going to argue that those are the top 2.
Good points. Kobe, what you got?
And Armani, I promise I'm not copying you, but Chase Elliott and Martin Truex Jr. are also my top 2 best road racers. And you mentioned Chase Elliott really doing an amazing job up there at Watkins Glen, then Charlotte Roval as well, and then took the Daytona road course. And an interesting point I want to make about Chase Elliott is that him and the other Hendrick drivers have been getting help from Corvette racing driver Jordan Taylor. My colleague at the podium finish, Stephen Conley, wrote an article about that. You're talking about how for the IMSA race last night, Chase Elliott gave Jordan Taylor a lot of points about the Roval and how it was a very choppy circuit and how you couldn't really get consistent lap times, and that's one of the other uniqueness of the Roval. Well, the road course you can get consistent lap time, but Chase said with this one you can't really do that. And also Jordan Taylor in return has been helping Chase Elliott and the other Hendrick drivers with their road course racing skills. So I think you can definitely say that that Jordan Taylor and his extensive road course racing experience in IMSA has really helped Chase Elliott develop into a solid road racer. And I know over the years, especially in the GM Chevrolet camp, we've seen Ron Fellows help them out a lot as well. And then another driver, Martin Truex Jr. just mentioned, also like Armani said, Martin Truex Jr. it seems to be always there. I believe he's won at Sonoma and also Watkins Glen as well. I think Martin Truex Jr. certainly one of the top road course racers in NASCAR.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. That's why we did the top 2. We all 3 have the same top 2. I don't know where Chase Elliott's came from. Maybe he ran road course racing at the time. I don't know his background in road racing. I don't think there really was any. I'm sure he started in them, but you forget his first Truck Series win was at a road course. I don't think he won any Xfinity road courses, but Chase has just kind of naturally been good at it. He really doesn't have that big of a background in it. And so it's been really unique. As a Chase Elliott fan, that was the last place I expected him to be excelling, to where half of his career wins are on road courses right now. 4 of his 8 wins are at road courses. He's won the last 3 Cup Series road course races. His average finishes at all really 4 tracks, I guess you could say, is a 3.5 at the Roval, 7.0 at Watkins Glen, 1.0 at the Daytona Road Course. He's won the only start there. And then a 17.5 at Sonoma. That's a little bit swayed. He finished 21st his rookie year, finished 8th, then 4th. And then last year he had an engine issue that mired him back into 37th. But still, overall, he has a 7.25 average career road course finish in Cup. Pretty badass when you look at everything he's done. Martin Truex Jr. second, 4 career road course wins. His career average finish is 10.56 at road races. Back-to-back wins at Sonoma. People forget he should have won the inaugural Roval race until Jimmy Johnson decided to just unplug and forget what the brake pedal is. I always have to give Armani a shot for being a Jimmy Johnson fan there. But let me tell you, he rated for an amazing finish, so I was very proud of Jimmy that day. Now it gets a little bit tougher. I think there's really a group of guys that are all kind of the same guy. They could go out and run second. They could go out and run 27th. You really don't know where they're going to be any given road course race. We'll start with Armani. Give me 3 through 5, then obviously we'll cut back through. But we'll start with Armani.
All right, 3 through 5. Number 3, Clint Boyer. Number 4, Denny Hamlin. Number 5, Kyle Busch.
Explain.
Clint Boyer, yeah. Clint Boyer is I feel like he's the most underrated road course racer out there. He seems like he's always a threat. Obviously, it's Sonoma. He's got a win there. He's had 5 top 5 since 2017, and obviously he won Sonoma, I believe, back in 2011 or 2012. Number 4, Denny Hamlin. 3 through 5, especially 4 through 5, you can honestly just put any driver, honestly, just because we don't really have road course ringers anymore, just drivers that really just stand out, unless your name's Chase Elliott or Martin Truex Jr. Denny Hamlin's got 1 win at the Glen since 2016, his only road course win. He has 4 top 5s in a row, or had 4 top 5s in a row road courses from 2016 to 2017, and he has 8 top 10s at road courses since 2016, including 7 top 5s. Kyle Busch, we talked about it earlier, where it's some drivers used to be good, but they're not really good anymore. Kyle Busch falls into that category. He's got 4 road course wins, 2 at the Glen and 2 at Sonoma, 8 straight top 10s from 2015 to 2018. However, in his last 5 road course races, he's only had 1 top 10. That's a second place finish last year at Sonoma. So Kyle Busch, as of recently, has been very just piss poor at road courses, but he used to be one of the better road course racers.
All right, Kobe, who you got? 3 through 5.
Yeah, you got number 3. Got Denny Hamlin up there. Although Denny Hamlin doesn't have all the wins to show for road course race abilities, but a few months ago when we were at the Daytona Road Course, Denny Hamlin had a shot to win that race. He was there, but like Chip Ganassi say, close but no cigar for Mr. Hamlin. Yeah, and then 4th I have Kyle Busch. I'm gonna say Kyle Busch got 4 wins on road courses. Kyle Busch did run the Rolex 24 earlier this year, where Dave Vassar Sullivan did an exceptional job. He was just a tiny bit slower than the fastest driver in that car, Jack Hosworth, who's an exceptional GT driver. And 5th, this may surprise a lot of people, but I'm gonna go with Daniel Suarez to round out that list because actually Daniel Suarez he has an average finish of 12 on the road courses, and that's one of the best of current active Cup drivers. And I think if we get some heavy rain, and when the rain equalizes the competition a lot more than it would do in regular conditions, I think Daniel Suarez could certainly move up and be more competitive than he normally is in that '96 Gaunt Brothers race in Toyota Camry.
Yeah, the 3 that I've gotten, mine were really tough. I put Kevin Harvick up there because you look at Kevin Harvick, he has back-to-back top 10s. I believe it was at Watkins Glen. I think he has back-to-back top 10s at the Roval. He's finished 3rd and 9th in the 2 starts there. 5 consecutive top 6 finishes at Sonoma. So Harvick is he always reminds me of like the Kyle Busches and Brad Keselowski's. They are always there. And I think with age, Kevin Harvick has become more patient. So Kevin Harvick, patience works at road courses. You've got to be able to sit back, hit your marks, know when to be aggressive, know when not to be aggressive. And so I think that fits Kevin Harvick very well. He's on my list. Kyle Busch is number 4. Kyle has really kind of fallen off the road courses, but I think Kyle is a guy who, much like Harvick, he's there every time. At some point, Kyle Busch is going to peek his head around the top 5, top 7, and he can go out and win. Obviously, he's going to need it today. He's borderline in a must-win situation today to make it into the round of 8 of the playoffs. So I think Harvick definitely has an opportunity. He's just going to have to take it, or Busch is going to have an opportunity. He's going to take advantage. Number 5 is Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch is another quiet kind of guy like Clint Bowyer. You look at his Watkins Glen stats. In his last 7 races, he has every single race he has finished 11th or better, including, a 3rd place finish, 5th, 6th place finish, and that's for multiple different teams. And then you look at his Sonoma stats, and it kind of always goes back to, remember when that magical race he had with Phoenix Racing back in the day where the rear end was broken and he was just driving the wheels off of it. If you look at his last 10 starts, he's had 7 top 10s at Sonoma. Now, the newer road courses, he struggled a little bit. He's going to have to perform a little bit better at the Roval. But we mentioned earlier today, Kurt Busch has no reason to be stressed out at all today. We mentioned this before the show. He can literally just relax, really finesse this race, and enjoy this race. And I think much like Clint Bowyer, which I'm very proud of Armani for pointing out, because I always forget about Clint Bowyer pretty much anywhere you go. But Clint Bowyer has been a very solid road racer as of late. Kurt Busch is very similar, the same way. He's been around a long time. He's been around these places a long time. And today, more time than ever to just relax, be patient, have fun, and hopefully get a win in the rain. So with that being said, we appreciate everybody listening. Definitely appreciate, Kobe, you joining us and everything. Like I said, I've been following you for a long time on Twitter, and always see you grinding out there, talking about racing, putting things out there about racing, and now – transitioning from being solely writing in print to now mixing into the video world. It's been pretty cool. And so we appreciate you coming on here and sharing your story, and we'll have to have you back on. We'll talk about some more. Next year, you may just have to be our go-to road course guy. I mean, it's going to be a 6th of the schedule at this point. It's going to feel like we're at one every other week. But with that said, hope everybody enjoys it. I really hope we get some weather today. For right now, I'm going to sit back, maybe drink a beer or 2, watch a little bit of football. Armani's going to go to work, and hopefully me and Kobe and the rest of us race fans will get to see a little bit of a show today. Where can they find you guys at?
For starters, you can follow me on Twitter at Kobe Lambeth, and also follow Grid Network on Twitter at Grid Rankin, and also you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Grid Network, and we also have a Patreon page available. We currently got 1 Patreon supporter, so really, once again, shout out to Colin for supporting our program. And if you guys out there want to support our Patreon, and you think our content is good enough for your support, feel free. And understanding is tough times with the pandemic and stuff. And if you can't support us through Patreon, that's perfectly fine. You can either subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also share it with your friends, because Joe Samniego and I, we have some big goals moving forward for the Grid Network. We're right now getting all the right people in place, making some good hires, building some great relationships, not just in the NASCAR community, but all over the world. We currently have 1 person based out of Argentina covering MotoGP for us. Also getting this Australian supercars guy coming up. Also working with a media outlet over in London called Formula E Zone. Yeah, so a lot of great things happening with Grid Network. Also working with a media outlet based in Italy, with racers behind the helmet, Daniel over there. Yeah, covering women in racing. We have a program called Great Girls that every Thursday, and it comes on at 12:30 on Thursdays. Yeah, so got a lot of great programs over here at Grid Network, and we really hope to keep growing and building our program, because taking a leap of faith, trying to build this up from the ground up, since with the pandemic might not be a lot of opportunities out there for us. So with that being said, we just got to go out there and create our own opportunities, and maybe we can build Grid Network into a solid media outlet, and we can be able to make a living that way, because Joe and I are just 2 passionate guys who love motorsports, and we want to just do our best and go out there and cover it the best way that we possibly can.
That's true. Armani at Motor Minister, the most badass name on Twitter. Armani, let's get out of here. Kobe, like I said, we greatly appreciate it. Armani, you get your butt to work. All right, you can't be late again. I know. And me, I'm going to sit back and relax and watch the Panthers potentially finally give the Falcons a win today. So, with that being said, we'll see you next week.